Good morning to the DMV and the rest of the world. This is your girl Reese, aka the best that ever did it. Yes, and today is a great show. Today is Friday. What is today's date? Is today's the 24th? No, it's the 23rd. It's Friday, September 23rd. To everybody celebrating a birthday, I want to say good morning, happy birthday. Today, we're going to talk about education. I got my good friend and scholar and professor, Miss Katina, on with us today. Katina, well, she will be in the house today with us, and we're going to talk about, is education useful or is it a ploy? Have we been bamboozled to think that education will help us in our day to day life, or have we been conditioned to be controlled so we could become factory workers? Are we going to be manufactured good little boys and girls to fit into the norms of society, the way our oppressors or our colonizer wants us to be? So we're going to dive into that today. Like I said, I have Dr. Katina Thomas with us, and this is her field of expertise. She's a professor in sociology. Uh, Great. And then we have Molly Mall, who's also an educated, well in tune young brother, and his viewpoint and his topic of how he thinks of education and all that good stuff. We're not going to talk about systemic racism, but yeah, we are kind of. Always throw that in there. I had to let the people know, give y'all the disclaimer. So we're going to talk about something that's educational, something about we're going to talk about stuff that's eye opening, and we want to tell you and teach you stuff that you probably don't even know. So we're about to take y'all back to school. For me, it's graduation day, baby. Hello, uh, Katina, you in the house with me, boo?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you this great
I'm good.
Friday?
And yourself?
I'm good. Grand rising to you, Queen. Grand rising.
Good morning.
Um, Today's show, I was telling them this is going to be about education, about the educational system, more so than education. What the system is now today for us and our kids, and how it became this way. Because I remember when I was talking to my grandparents, where they didn't have grade school, they had what you call was a schoolhouse, and in that schoolhouse, they had all of the kids from the community in one schoolhouse. Can you imagine that? Your
Yes.
class,
That's a
everybody
historical
rode one
reality.
bus, and your classmates was all different ages, and the big kids had to look out for the little kids.
That's
That's
how it
when we
was.
had love in the community, and we looked out and really looked out for one another. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
and I remember hearing those stories, and I was like, wow. And then I remember talking to my mother and her brothers and sisters, and their school stories is different because they were telling me how they were segregated, and then how they were integrated, how they were bused to other communities to learn, how they may have bypassed 10 of their elementary schools in their neighborhood to go to another elementary school that's outside of the neighborhood, and how that was for them. It was some woes and some woes. They liked it in some areas they didn't. And we're going to talk about that today as well. Katina, you being a scholar and all, what is your take on all this education?
Um, well, I believe education it serves an important function in society.
Hmm. My son keeps telling me that college is a ripoff. He was
Well,
like,
college is just one aspect of education.
"Yeah, you got to get through the other grades before you can get there. Though it's levels, to
Absolutely.
these games." And I'm going to admit, college is not for everybody. because you don't have to go to college to learn how to be uh, artist, because it's innately in you to draw, to create. You don't have to go to college to do a lot of things, but where critical learning and critical thinking theory and all that good stuff and college is useful is when we want to become our doctors, because then we have to have continuing education, because we have to keep up with the science, the technology, and all of that good stuff. I guess doctors and lawyers and then teachers, other teachers, college is useful for. But for the 9 times out of 10, is going to college beneficial? I grew up in the era where they said you got to go to school to be something. If you don't go to college, that diminish your value, and that's just not true. I don't feel that way. But everybody says, "Oh, you got to have a college degree. Oh, you got to be have this degree to get this job." Whoopty whoopty whoop. I know some people that's govies, right? My sisters, my cousins, my mom, and all of these people. They were they were able to get into a job, a government, and earn a lot of money, good money, and they did not have a college education. They got in from those homeschools where they go work study, where they start off as students and take a class here or there, and they were able to move up to the six-figure salaries very easily without a college degree. Although, if you had a college degree coming in those positions at those certain levels, they would pay more. But
Exactly. And you wouldn't have to put in the same amount of time often in the government. You can come in at a GS9 with a certain level of education, whereby other people would have had to work 10, 12, 15 years to get to that level. So that's one of the benefits that, education provides, which is, you know, all a part of what helps the system function.
if you're going to be a white collar worker, a factory worker, so to speak, because I know a lot of people who graduate with degrees and don't even go into the field of expertise that the degree is geared towards. You could come out with
That's
a
true.
degree in
That's true. But
criminal
people
justice.
go to
Hell, we
college for chemistry, chemical engineering, mechanical engineering. I mean, it's just so many different avenues that you can go in. And I'm not saying that, everybody should go to college. People should make informed decisions. I notice a lot of times Black
right,
people are not making informed decisions. And
right.
oftentimes they like to keep espousing, oh, I believe this, I believe this. Okay, so what are your beliefs based on? How have you informed yourself, provided yourself with adequate information to be able to make a really good decision for your life?
Mm, that is a good question, especially when we're young, when children are young, because we were all once there, and we don't know what we want to do with our life. We're still looking and searching and finding ourselves. So you saying that education helps give them that root in search of finding themselves, or
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It provides an environment for that type of thinking to take place.
okay.
It provides you with an environment, and it provides you with people who can actually provide you with even more information so that you can be more secure in your decision.
I always say, study to show thyself approved, and that is for all aspects of the life. Some people have to go to work while they're in school and in school, and some people can't afford to go to what they used to call regular school. What did they used to call college? Normal school back in the days. Only your doctors, your nurses, your lawyers, your teacher went to what they call a normal school. A lot of people in my parents' era dropped out of school to get jobs, to work, and then my grandparents' era, because education wasn't as important as it was knowing how to run a business or trade or farming or tobacco or even working on cars, mechanic.
I mean, depending on what era you came up in, education was a far gone conclusion for people because people, for Black people anyway, you know, when public education actually started in this country, Black people were enslaved. So education was illegal. You couldn't teach people who
It
were
wasn't for us.
enslaved to read. You could not read, you could not write. So education was illegal for Black people for the first years of their existence in this
You
country.
zipped out.
I said that education was exempted. Black people was exempted from educate. It was illegal. I should say it very straight. It was
Mm,
illegal to teach enslaved people to read. It was illegal to teach enslaved people to write.
right?
And
Yeah.
so when by the time Black people became quote unquote free, um, they're too old for school. And so that generation of people didn't have the tools to teach their children their ABCs and one, two, threes, but they did know how to survive. And so children learned typically, the trades of the parents in order to make a living. And so school was not something that was front and center in the minds of Black people or poor white people in this country for that matter, because it didn't make a lot of sense for the time that you're in, when it's an agricultural society, not an industrial society. There's no electronics at this time. There is, no low technology. And so,
Right.
yeah,
Well,
we
it
change as
shows
time change.
it's an education is changing or needs to be changed and revamped on the forefront as we speak now. And being though that we just came out of this pandemic, that shows us that education needs an overhaul and how it works in the system of things. Look how when the schools shut down and how you had to go to virtual learning and everything. Have a great day. And everything on online as such versus that the traditional in the front of the teacher teaching and everything. But do we need everything that's taught in school? You think every because I noticed over
Mhm.
the years how the curriculum changed, how they cut different stuff out of the curriculum. Do you think that everything that they're teaching in school that we need, or do you think that everybody it should be how do I want to put this? Should be learning on that same scale, like when you're expected to know this by kindergarten, this by first grade, second grade, third grade, and all of that stuff. Do you think that the parents can teach the children uh, at home some of these things to cut out
I
on
mean,
some of the curriculum?
anything is
Because
possible, right? Anything in the world can be possible, but is it probable? And it's probably not likely because if you're low educated, then how you going to teach the children? If you have to go to work and take care of the household that way, how can you teach your children? Now if you got the time to sit aside to homeschool, then you got the time to homeschool. But when we start to think about all of people in society instead of just one individual and this person, that cousin, this one, yeah, people can do things individually, but as a society, that's not really feasible to teach everybody to just teach their children at home. When let's look at it from like elementary school, and this is just only my opinion. My opinion is that I don't think
you kicked out,
necessarily. Oh,
baby. What's your opinion?
She
Continue.
well.
not clicking out, Reese. That's your connection.
Oh, it is.
Okay, she
Oh
Yeah.
thrown me
no.
off. I see her freezing over there. So, my opinion is that I don't think I believe that, well, I won't say I don't think I believe. I don't believe that students need education the way that it is. I agree in
Mhm.
terms of reforms in that
Mhm.
I think that by the time a young person is 16 years old, they could learn all of what they need to know in terms of how to read, write, put sentences together, put paragraphs together, be able to having a vocabulary that will allow you to be able to speak to different people within society. Because it does nobody any good, in my opinion, to just be stuck in one environment. So you want to be able to, speak well, write well, count well above, and do algebra. All of these are basic things. You can't even be a carpenter without knowing algebra, without knowing how to measure and add and divide and subtract fractions. You can't do this out here. You can't, do your own paperwork if you can't understand the legalese. So I think that for the most part, I don't think that you need to be in 12 years of school per se. I think that could be condensed. I think we can learn all of those things. And I think that students definitely should have various options in terms of how to start to think about their post school life. And I think that in Washington, D.C., we had, in my opinion, again, a wonderful system. We had a wonderful system in that, we were getting taught a lot of stuff up to like 11th grade. And then by the time you get to the 10th and 11th grade, you was given a lot of options to go to Phelps, to go to Spingarn, to go to these places to learn how to build various skills. And I think that that was one of the best educational systems that could be available to DC people, is one that would actually be a hybrid of regular educational learning and then a technical skills learning, because people were learning how to be electricians, carpenters, cosmetologists, and were being licensed,
Nurses. Don't forget
all kinds of
nurses.
professions, all the different professions. And I think that a hybrid type of educational system like that would be much more beneficial to students, and it would be an incentive for young people to stay in school. And it will allow them to get some type of real work experience before they graduate, and they'll be much more prepared to, take on the world.
Yes, I agree. Molly, do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, how I feel about education. I just be thinking that a lot of people forget that black people, we're not retarded. A lot of people don't realize that if we take white people right now and we was to kidnap them and took them to Africa, they wouldn't have been able to speak our language neither. They wouldn't be able to learn or read the things we was reading neither. Just because we was in America don't mean we couldn't read. We can read, we just couldn't read English. We can talk, we weren't ignorant. We can have great conversation, just not in their language. So now they done enslaved us, forced us to learn their religion and they language and English, and then they built the school, and now they got us thinking that, oh, you got to go to school to be smart. We've been smart. We've been building pyramids, things that they can't even rebuild because they don't understand it. But they dumbed us down, and they gonna continue to dumb us down because we're gonna continue to take our kids to these 12-step programs. When I went to school, half of the books wasn't even there. The papers was ripped out. It was gum damn near every damn page, and that got a lot to do with us. But even the books they was giving us, they just teaching us to be able to work for their kids. So yeah, you could get a good job, but for what company? Would you want to work for T-Mobile? You want to work for AT&T? A lot of these people, you don't even got to write paragraphs once you become an adult. And a lot of these kids, parents, they not undereducated because a lot of them didn't go to college, and you not in college yet. You in middle school. Your parents should be able to help you. You in elementary, your parents should be able to help you no matter how uneducated it is. Most of them got to high school. They should be able to help you with basic math. But nope, they got to go to work. To work that basic job that college don't even help them with. Everything you learn in school don't even got nothing to do with your job. But they got this thing that called, oh, you got to learn how to write and read and, write paragraphs, and niggas ain't doing that at McDonald's. When I go to T-Mobile, they don't be in that junk. Yeah, fill this out. That's obvious. Your parents just teach you how to write letters. I remember when we was young, we had to learn how to write mail to our family members, learn how to put the stamps on there and mail it off. I ain't learned that in school. There's a lot of things you can learn at home, but we get so caught up in this society, that this white society that they run, that we got to do the things that they do, the ways that they do it. We got to go to school. We got to get 4-year education and get a good job. But for who? Because you ain't got to do that, become a boss. The richest people in the world didn't finish school. That don't make sense to me. And why Bill Gates ain't got a scholarship, but somehow they running the world. Most of the people that's running the world ain't been to college, ain't finished 4 years. So it's just like they just be throwing it in our face. Like all you got to do is really have a successful business and hire the kids that we send to school to work for you. You ain't got to actually be smart. You can just get the kids around you that's smart. You can hire doctors. We been had doctors. They was called healers, but now you gotta go to school for 8 years just to make sure your people don't get sick. They doing that purposely. They can know black people ain't gonna naturally do it because it costs so much money to stay in school for that long. So now we got a lot of white doctors, foreign doctors, and all these doctors we can't trust. If REESE, it should be easy for you to have a doctor in the family. Back then we did. You think our ancestors couldn't heal? If we was sick, you think they ain't know what to do? They knew what to do. They ain't need no book. They ain't need no white people to tell them this is what you do when the heart had problems, when the gut had problems. That's why Dr. Sebi not here today. Because he realized I ain't got to go to these white universities to learn how to heal the human body. It don't take that. They took our knowledge and dumbed it down because they don't understand it. And then they put it in their language and tell us that we had to learn how to read as slaves. No, we knew how to read in our language. You'd have left us where we was at or left us doing what we was doing. We knew how to communicate very well. So people got to get out their mindset that we were just stupid, retarded, and they was keeping us from learning how to read. No, they was forcing us to learn how to read their language. We ain't care to learn how to read their language. We ain't care to learn how to speak their language. They forced it upon us. And if you didn't want to do it, they beat it into you as they read the Bible. The same Bible that people go to church and praise, the same Bible that KKKs read, all that, they already got us brainwashed to thinking
Yep.
that this is the way to go. Education is the way to go. And all they doing is drain. It's a business. If you follow the money, then you understand why Romeo and Master P got online schools now. Why everybody got online schools? Because this ain't nothing but a business. You ain't even got to go to campus no more. You can go to DeVry University, UDC, all of these little fake colleges just popping up, and we thinking it's great. No, it's just all about business. It's about putting our kids in debt. So about time they become an adult, they got to take loans from the bank, or they can't even get a loan. They got to depend on mom and pops who already don't know about credit. It's all about credit. That's all it's about. This whole country is about business and credit. So if you ain't got a business, you ain't got good credit, you're gonna just be another person on the board, just another piece on the monopoly board. And all we teaching our kids is to be workers. We need to start teaching them how to be bosses. And you can go to college and learn how to be a boss, but don't go to college just to work for somebody else. If education ain't free, forget it. Don't pay top dollar. If you can't get a lot of grants, forget it. I tell you now, you'll be paying it back for a long time. But if you one of them smart kids and they gonna give you a free ride, or you're an athlete, man, take advantage of that. Like go to college and take advantage of that piece of paper. 'Cause that piece of paper can get you in some places, but still try to use their jobs to save that money, become your own boss, and then you can hire our people. They ain't got to go to college for 4 to 5 years to work for you. You can actually help people out and help them become bosses. But that's how I feel, Reese. I can go on and on about education.
I know, I know. Get ready. I got a clip that I want y'all to see. Good
Okay, you got a lot of comments. Nene said good morning.
morning.
Bernice said good morning.
Morning, sis.
Said nature, what you do when you require that your child attend a school. Every parent doesn't have the option of private school or anything of that nature.
Who said
My
that?
kids say that all the time. I think it's, yeah, Bernice. Bernice said that, you know, and that's the cycle I believe that they got us in. The parents working, they got a job that they most likely don't like. If they
Mm.
went to school, they still paying off student loans. It's just a cycle, so you ain't got time to really help your child or educate your child. But that's why it take a village. It should be uncle that I believe that grandma should be teaching kids right now. Like grandma should have been retired. That's why they make it so long for people to retire. Because grandma should be home or grandpa home to watch the kids after they come home from school to teach them things. Imagine your grandmother, older spouse, and while your parents at work, but everybody working now. Grandma still got to work too. It's some BS to me,
It's
Reese.
the different society because a lot of grandmas in the club with the kids and the daughter and the granddaughters. Seriously, a lot of these grandmas don't know nothing. I know somebody that's a grandma, right? And she's a grandma, and I was talking to her about OSA. I explained to her what an OSA is. So her response was, and this is somebody that went to college and still, like I said, book smarts and common sense smart. I don't know, but they told me, well, if you got a hole in your stomach, can't you just sew it up? If you got an ulcer in your stomach, can't you just sew the hole up in your stomach? And I was like, what? What did you? I was like, wait a minute. So obviously they didn't know what a lot of stuff is. A lot of times people go through high school and college and they're not good for the wear. I mean, meaning they didn't learn what they were supposed to learn or the level of knowledge that you think that they should possess because everybody is on a different learning timetable. Some people learn fast. Some people learn slow. Some people need 12 years to get it. Some people don't. You know what I'm saying? Some people can move, skip right ahead. That's why you got some geniuses at 13. Everybody is not on the same level. And even though you go to college, that still does not necessarily make that person better for that journey. Uh, I guess it depends on everything where you want to go. And a lot of the grandmas are in the club and partying. Let me tell you a true story. When my son, and this is why when Tyree started preschool, he was 4 years old. He knew his name, address, how to spell his name, frontwards and backwards, first name, middle name, and last name. He knew all his numbers. He knew how to count from 1 to 10 in Spanish. He knew the colors in Spanish and in English. He knew how to spell basketball at 3 years old. How many 3 year olds spell basketball, baseball? It's what you teach your children. They're like a sponge. Their mind is like a sponge. Um, send Slinky the link to he must be in Facebook jail, Molly. Send him the YouTube link. Send that link out. Um,
I'm sending it. You got Hannibal in here. He said, hey. Rico said, hey. Hannibal said, education is the brain from within the system. About training, we must stop referring it to as education system. Call it what it is. Training and slash breeding ground for workers. Rico said, good morning, morning, Max. Show. Have a good weekend, y'all.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the true story was that when I was in the fifth grade, elementary school. They was busing me. So I'm in Beacon Heights, Riverdale, Maryland, in an all white neighborhood, little black girl. All of the other classes went in. I'm standing out there on the playground crying. Do you know why? Because I did not know my name. When they called my name, I did not know my name. I did not know my real name when they called it. I didn't know how to spell it or any of that. Now, the neighborhood was all white back in Riverdale, Maryland, back in the 70s, early 70s. And if it wasn't for Miss Green, black teacher, came out there and said, baby, where you belong? This is your first time in school. She found out I was a kindergarten and she took me to the class where I was supposed to be in. And that traumatized me as a child. That fear, that fright out there in the cold for a couple of hours, that totally traumatized me. So when I had mine, I made sure that mine's going to learn everything that I could cram in that little brain that he was learning at that young age, and he was smart with it. He was grabbing it, boom, 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 boom. The more I taught him, the more he was able to grab. Because it was like, oh, he too young. You can't teach him that. He can't do that. We proved them wrong because yes, I did do it because I took the time with him because I was there because I was, was sick, unfortunately, when I first had my child. So I was using that little dude like a sponge. You can learn this, you can learn that, you can learn this, you can learn that. I don't feel as though, oh, they too young to learn this, they too young to learn that. My mind was open and my thinking was differently than those of my mothers, which was those of her mothers, because they didn't care nothing about the school system. My grandmother, she was like, get a job. She was a domestic service, so she was like, get a job, get this, get that, work at getting that education, what they call education, was not important to them. And then my mother generation with the affirmative action, where they could get into things, where they could do things, that's when it became important. Molly, we got a video about the truth about education, or do you want to see the one about who is Horace Mann, where that came from? Or we could do the one with my 17, the boy, that 17-year-old, we could play any of those videos. But share the folks a little something something.
So you're a titan of industry in the early 20th century. You've monopolized the oil industry and destroyed competitors using shady business practices. Why would you want competition? Competition is terrible unless you have control over it. Better yet, why not teach people that they cannot compete? After all, you don't want a nation of thinkers. You want a nation of workers. You are John D. Rockefeller. Here is the dark truth of the school system. In 1903, John D. Rockefeller founded the General Education Board, and within 5 years, he would donate $1.27 billion today, adjusted for inflation. Why would Rockefeller donate such a large sum of money toward American education?
Rockefeller and his fellow robber barons are not loved. Ordinary Americans resent their wealth and power. Oil tycoon John D. Rockefeller, his son, John Jr., decide to redeem their public image. John Sr., to win American hearts and minds, publicizes his philanthropy.
Did he donate his money because he is a good person? Did he donate his money because he truly cared about the American education system? Or did he donate his money to indoctrinate American society? The whole idea of assembling masses of students to be processed by teachers in a centrally located school was a stroke of industrial genius. The whole administrative hierarchy of education, as it grew up, followed the model of industrial bureaucracy. The very organization of knowledge into permanent disciplines was grounded on industrial assumptions. Children marched from place to place and sat in assigned stations. Bells rang to announce changes of time. The inner life of the school thus became an anticipatory mirror, a perfect introduction to industrial society. The most criticized features of education today: the regimentation, lack of individualization, the rigid system of seating, grouping, grading, and marking, the authoritarian role of the teacher, are precisely those that made mass public education so effective an instrument of adaptation for its place and time. Alvin Toffler, Future Shock, 1970. Everything Alvin Toffler just said shows the impact that the school system has on kids. It indoctrinates them to become a part of the workforce. And in the early 20th century, this was perfect for titans of industry like Rockefeller. Pumping children through the school system created less entrepreneurs, meaning less competition for Rockefeller. But obviously not everyone can be a billionaire, so what's so wrong with the school system? Honestly, for the average person in the 19th and early 20th century, the school system was great. It provided free education and prepared them to join the workforce, allowing them to contribute to society and provide for their family. Today, traditional schooling is outdated, and this became especially noticeable when the pandemic hit. With the introduction of the internet, the education system should have had a massive change, but it didn't advance nearly as much as the rest of society did. With the introduction of the internet and better technology, so many more jobs were created. The sad part is, for years now, we've been told by our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents that the only way to be successful in life was by going to college. And that was relatively true for most of the 19th and 20th century, but with the introduction of the internet, everything has changed. I'm a 17-year-old kid.
Okay, wow. Did y'all get enough of that? Did y'all hear what he said? And he's a 17-year-old white kid who runs his own business, and he never been to college or nothing, but he's successful. Is it because he's a complexion for the protection of the collection of the color people? You know, they always say that. Katina, what are your thoughts on what you just saw about this video? How are you feeling?
I mean, that's pretty much, I already kind of know these things because of the various people we study who are the ones who actually analyze these things over time because they, educate themselves and they analyze these things and they come up with these type of perspective. This person who did this video is very liberal. You can tell this is a very liberal thinking person who is probably a person who identifies with Marxism because Marxists are always going against the capitalists and trying to highlight the wickedness of the capitalists and help people understand that the economic system that you live under is pretty much run by people who are greedy and who wants to control the labor and control the labor force. So I agree with what the person was saying in that video, and you know, it makes sense.
Molly, what are your thoughts? What
Mm.
the person said?
I mean, I like everything he said. I know about it.
Yeah,
That's why it was due to them factories he had. He needed more workers, but once he had so many workers, they got tired of supervising them, looking over them as they work. So they was like, how can we get people these jobs to look over the workers? So we had to build a school system, so called. That's when college came about. When you went to college, you was able to get them supervising jobs, the jobs that look over the workers, the ones who actually put in all the hard work. So then they was able to go home and relax and just sit back and get a check. Before that, they was actually in these factories, Rockefeller and all of them, making sure that the jobs got done. But now they put in school in place for they can train these kids to
yep,
actually do their job, But it was smart by them. It was smart. I wish people would look more into it because Rockefeller to this day they still using that same system. They might
mm,
not be him, but it's his kids. And his kids, and it's gonna go on forever. And it was smart by him because you don't want competition. If they didn't have this school system in play, you'll have more people out here trying to be entrepreneurs, which actually coming about now, and it's becoming a problem. But that's why I think they take a lot of history out of the school. It ain't because of the black kids, because the kids like him, that white kid making videos, they actually preaching on a lot of this stuff that actually happened. It's different when I see it, but when you got white kids and white men coming out saying the same thing, that's when it open people's eyes up. Like, hold on, because they don't even like some of the things that was done to us, and they different than their ancestors. So
yeah.
as long as they don't know their history, they won't, care to do anything. So I think that's why they're taking a lot of these history books and stuff out of the schools because it's the white kids starting to wake up and treat us better.
What is it that our viewers are saying? I can't read the comments, but I see flashing.
I
Like
see.
it's changing.
I see Slicky Woo said, "Damn, I told you yesterday I was in Facebook jail." Hamill said, it's not about greed, it's about the hustle." Hello, Katina, hit my page. DJ Slicky said that. Before interrogation, we were forced to be
Integration.
integration. Yeah, that do say integration. Sorry about that. We had to be more entrepreneurs minded than anything. And I'm with that. You had to be. I mean, but now you can actually get trained to work for me. Like if I get my company going, they training y'all to come work for me. Then you go to college, you get to pick a trade. That's all I think of as a trade. When I got to college, it's like, what you want to major in? And I was like, damn, I remember my brother and them was like, they was able to pick trades, my older brothers, in high school. So when they left, they just dropped out and started working for the trade they was doing in high school. They was like, no point, because this one I'm gonna finish school and go straight into. So that's what they did. They put all the trades and so-called game fancy names. So you want to learn how to be a technician, you had to go to college for that. Now you want to learn how to work on computers, go to college for that. You want to be a manager, college supervisor now. agent, sports agent, all these things you gotta go to school for and get some type of certificate or program now. You know, it's
Right.
weird. But Rockefeller, that man though, he the guy.
That's what Katina was saying, and it's funny how we all have different viewpoints, and but we all agree on the same on like the same thing. Here's another point that I want to bring up: separate but equal. Now, this is just my point of view about the separate but equal thing. I thought it was better when black people in black schools were learning from black teachers and scholars, right? I thought it was more beneficial. But we wanted separate but equal. We wanted the good books, like you said. We wanted good books for you to read. We wanted good chairs and tables, a good environment where our teachers and our children can learn, where our people can teach their people about society, history, math, all of it. Black people are, like you said, are smart. We built the pyramids, right? But when it got down to that integration and Brown versus the border education thing, when it got to busing, like my mother said, and I, like I said, and I remember as a child going to the white neighborhood, bypassing all of these schools. And why couldn't I go to the school in my neighborhood? They bused us all the way out to Riverdale when Matthew Henson was in walking distance, which we ended up going to because they changed the bus line. But the point that I'm trying to make, that our teaching, our scholars, we're awesome. We just wanted the same material, the same quality of education, not meaning different teachers. We wanted our black teachers because when integration came and a lot of the scholars and the professors lost their job, a lot of the educational field of black people lost their job when it became integrated because it was bad enough that we had to go to school with the white kids. White people did not want their white children being taught by black teachers. They had to fight for that. It was okay. Okay, I'm a white man. I'm going to teach your black kids. But then when it came to this black man teaching them white kids, they didn't want that. So a lot of our scholars, doctors, professors, and all that took a big L when we was trying to do that integrating segregation thing. Sometimes separate is better. You don't have to mix all the colors up to get together because when we was learning, we wasn't getting from those white teachers, wasn't teaching us what we was getting from them black teachers. Did y'all get what I'm saying?
I get exactly what you're saying. Ham said the teachers back in the day were a part of the village and extension of the family
Right.
community. And then the 25, 20 schools, we lost that. Yeah, I used to love Miss Lucas. James said, good morning.
Good morning. And we had good black teachers in school that taught the babies. And not only did they teach you about your education, they teach you your ABCs, the one, two, threes. They say, I'm black and I'm proud. They taught you self-love. I'll never forget Miss Green. She was my the first grade teacher. And she was like the afro, and the way she talked to the kids, and she called us all babies. She didn't have not a child, but we felt like that she was everybody's mother. This black lady that looked out for everybody, and we felt different. She taught us that you're beautiful, that you're smart, that everything that we needed in our community, in our village, so our children can grow. When our teachers went under the white teachers, the instructors were different. They were a little colder. They were a little biased. There
Mm.
was this boy in our class named Ricky. White boy always disrupt the class, and every time I told the teacher he's picking with me, she wouldn't get on him. She would get on me. He's bothering me. Is that because he's a different color? She the same color as her? And I was taken out of the equation. I was moved. Why you moving my desk? Cause this boy messing with me. Why you doing? Why you doing this? We got another video, Molly.
No, I had to mute him. Still playing from the last
Oh,
video.
oh, oh, I'm sorry.
You good?
And we had to go through stuff like that. There is a big difference, and it was a big bias. And that's in the 70s when I was growing up, with education and how you were treated. You children see and feel it. So sometimes separate is not bad. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree, Reese. I just be want people open their eyes up to like if like China was to like capture us and we was like prisoners of war, they would force us to learn their language. Whatever they believe in, they will force us to learn them thing. And then like 50 years from then, we'll be speaking their language. And then people be like, you dumb, you barely know how to speak Chinese. You need to learn how to read, but that's not our natural language. So when you ever hear people be like, yeah, white kids smarter than black kids, they learning they natural English. They born learning they natural language. We born learning somebody else total different language. Even though our parents know, but at one point somebody was picking it up. It was a little hard for somebody. That's why you got a lot of foreigners come over here. They can barely speak our language, but the kids that was born here that they had, they sound just like us. So after a while, yeah, we're gonna start to sound like them, talk like them, walk like them, dress like them, and now we to the point that we want to be them. Like we don't even know where we come from anymore. And then the well-dressed spoke nigga, that's the ones they throw on TV all the time. And they try and encourage us to be like them. Be more like him. This is the right man to be. Not no Tarzan looking nigga. Not nobody like Kunta Kinte, none of that. That's just savage life. We savages. We come from savagery. Like I'd rather get back to where we come from. Like America might be good compared to the rest of a lot of the world. Like it might be terrible some places. It's supposed to be the land of the free, but it's really just free about religion. You can't say what you want to say. We get muted for half of the things we talk about on Facebook, so it's not really land of the free. It's land of the crackers, man, and they running it. This day system, this day game, and we continue to play. They gonna continue to have their way. But I think it's gonna be one generation. It ain't gonna be us. I think it's gonna be our grandkids or their kids that's gonna have a man, like they're gonna get tired of it. They're not gonna play the game no more. They're not gonna be going to these schools. They're gonna just be having family businesses. And like, look, we're gonna teach you the business. From here, I be seeing them Chinese kids in the curry out. I'm like, they ain't got school. I used to realize I go to there before school, after school. These kids still in there. Some of them taking your order. They look the same age as me. They parents already teaching them the business. They not saying, oh, go to school. They might homeschool them, but at the end of the day, this gonna be your business. This what you gonna be doing, man. You need to learn how to chop this cat up and feed it to these people.
And
Because
the nail
eventually
salon.
they gonna get it back. The moms and pop stores, we got kicked out. We don't even realize it. And now we forced it. They don't even know our language. That don't stop them from coming to get our money. Half the time you tell them, hey, give me some chips, they grab a soda. You like, dog, I'm literally saying chips. You gotta point at it. But nobody tell them and say they dumb. We just say, oh, they can't speak our language. You don't know our language.
No,
To
we
us,
say
we
the
dumb.
opposite. That they're smart. That they're the smartest. People. One of the smartest race in the world. That's what we say. No, they don't consider them being a dumb or ignorant or none of that. Because none of us all. It's all about communication, about effective communication. And if you could effectively communicate with somebody, um, that's a good thing. You could I don't speak French, but if I was to have a conversation with Toulouse Lautrec about art, I wouldn't understand nothing he's saying. Does that make me a dummy because I wouldn't understand nothing he's saying or nothing he's talking about? No.
Nope.
It's everybody got their own language culture. It's communication. It's effective communication. That's why we got critical thinking. That's why we got a class called effective communication. Like education is important. If you could teach me how to read and talk and write, I could learn that from home. But if I learn how to effectively communicate, I could talk to the world. And I think that's what it's about. Being able to commute on that global level,
Yeah.
talking to the people. Um, I had do we got I got another video, Molly. No, before we go to the video, Katina, what are your thoughts on what we was just talking about?
I don't know. It was a lot, and it was kind of like all over the place, right? One thing I would interject is that you can't just make sweeping comments about groups of people, and that's called stereotyping, right? When we just like, oh, all Chinese people this, all Chinese people that, because many of the people who own the corner carry outs with that sell the chicken wings and stuff, many of those guys are from Korea, and some of them are from China. But then you got your first generation Chinese immigrants. You got people who was born here and came like back in the 1800s and was building the railroads in this country and stuff. And so, some Chinese people have a very long history in this country, and that some of them never actually had a carry out, and many of them who are here opening up carryouts, Korean, Vietnamese, whatever, they typically are sending their kids to college. Many of them, their children work in those restaurants when they are off from school, excuse me, off from school and on the weekends and stuff like this. Because one of the good stereotypes, because I believe that we got our negative stereotypes and you got positive stereotypes, but they're stereotypes all the same. But one of the positive stereotypes about Chinese people, especially Asians, is that, or Asians in general, is that they are studious
Mm.
and that their culture mandates that you go to school, and it was so strict. I still remember reading an article in the Washington Post from like the 1980s or 90s where a Chinese student was actually killed by her teacher, and the teacher kind of she slammed her against the wall because the teachers had that type of control. And I read also in that article that when the children would get in trouble, say if they got picked up off the street by the police will call the teacher before they call the parents, because that is how much importance that they placed on education and the teacher. It was almost like the teacher was infallible. And so it's differences depending on where you find people. And I would also just say one thing that's interesting to me, since we're talking about Asians. I read this wonderful book that talked about the different races and how the early presidents, the early ones, at least from I think Theodore Roosevelt, how they felt about the different races. And I thought by the time I finished reading that book, I would have my suspicions confirmed that black people were the ones that they hated the most. But no, the first these 16 presidents that this man wrote about, they hated the Chinese. They
Oh,
hated the Chinese because the Chinese people would not, cooperate with them. The Chinese people had said, guess what? We don't need your culture. We have our own culture, and we are going to, be within that culture. We don't need to marry your women. They sent to China for their women to come here, and so that racial solidarity was something that pissed off white people in this country at the highest levels. But that solidarity too is something they couldn't break. And that's why today Chinese children are benefiting from the stance that their ancestors took a long time ago.
wow. I see a comment from Hannibal. I see the blue Molly. What is Hannibal saying?
He's saying it's not stereotype when the evidence support their collective motive in business. They stay true to their culture, you know. And I agree with you, Hannibal. A lot of people, I don't know if they Korean, Chinese, it don't really matter to me. They call us African, black. They just label all
They
us as
call
black.
us all the
But
same.
all I know is that it was moms and pop stores in the neighborhood, and now there's curry outs. I know these curry out people don't bring that money back to our community that we spend millions of dollars on. We can't go to China and open up a curry out and get support from
Whose
they
fault
people.
is it? Whose fault is it if you
See,
let
I'm not
people come
finding no
into your
fault. I'm just speaking
community?
truth. I'm
I'm
just
just
speaking
saying we're
truth
gonna keep on having these same conversations for the next 50,000 years
because we
if
keep
black people don't
allowing it.
take
We are
responsibility.
now, and every time we do, we find another black person that say it's our fault. No, it's not. We don't own these properties. We ain't put mom and
You
pop
ain't
shop and
own it
put
because you
the
ain't put the
Chinese people
money
in
up.
there. We didn't do that. The white people did that purposely.
Well,
These
guess
Chinese
what?
people
If
not
we
here
didn't
by
buy the
accident.
chicken wings, if we didn't buy the chicken wings, the store would
Then
have
we
to
would
close up.
starve. We would
Girl,
starve.
hell,
That's
why?
what
I
they
mean,
put in
we
the
know how to
neighborhood.
fry chicken wings. We knew was fried chicken wings before Chinese
Exactly.
people came
We
here.
used to
So
grow
we didn't
food
never
too.
have to buy their stuff. And ain't
As long
nobody
as we find
stopping
an
us.
excuse of
And
why they
ain't nobody
fucking us
stopping
over,
us.
that so
Ain't nobody
I let
stopping
you say
us.
how you feel about what you feel. I stayed quiet. You literally said it's okay because they Korean and this person might Chinese.
No, I didn't
They
say
go to
nothing was
school.
okay. No, I
No,
did
I'm
not
saying
say
it's
that.
not. But literally, you saying it's our fault. We got to stop blaming
And
ourselves for what's done to
no,
us.
no, I
We were
think we should.
slaves. The Chinese people, literally, you said out your mouth. They said the white man hated them more because they didn't want to be enslaved. Of course, they ain't gonna hate us as much in the
I
Chinese
did
man.
not
They
say
already
that
enslaved us.
either. I didn't say they wouldn't be enslaved. I said that they hated them
I
because
said
they
they
embraced their
refused to be
culture.
enslaved. I think you just
They wasn't.
responded
It
instead
wasn't
of
us for
listening. You
Wait a
responded
slavery
minute, wait
instead
a
of
minute.
listening.
Come on,
Yeah, because
Georgia.
she
Come
ain't
on,
listening. She
Georgia.
just responded.
Let me get
Go
my
ahead.
because
ruler.
you're
Let me
saying
tap
that
on
I
the
said
dash.
things that I didn't say.
I am saying literally
Wait a minute,
exactly
wait
what
a
you
minute,
said, but
wait,
you're not
wait.
hearing me because you heard me wrong. I said exactly what you said.
No, you
Listen,
didn't.
when y'all go to the playback, can y'all hear me?
No, but she not hearing literally what I said. She said she thought I said she said something that she didn't say when I literally said exactly what she said.
Okay.
I don't know.
Um,
I mean, it's up to y'all. I mean, if y'all think that it's okay for these curry outs and y'all find it okay, then cool. If it's our fault, that's your opinion. I just feel like it's not our fault. We don't own this property, don't own the land. So when they kick all the moms and pop stores out and put these curry outs up, all these tobacco stores, these 7-Elevens and stuff, that's not by accident. That's not our fault. And we're gonna go bad because that's the only thing in the neighborhood. They make sure that stuff cheap too, so we can afford it. So you can blame us, but at the end of the day, this is where we at. We ain't got all the nice vegan spots that they got in their area. That's by purpose. That's by design. But we can constantly keep blaming us for the conditions that we in. I'm cool with that, but I don't think it's our fault. I think we play a part, but I don't think it's all our fault. We
what
definitely
are
play a
some of the
part.
comments are saying? Um,
It's
I don't
our fault.
I don't blame our fault, and I don't blame on nobody else's. It's the condition. It's this pandemic that we in. It's this how society rules us and how America is, because if they made it very easy for another culture to come over here and go to the bank and get a loan, versus if I go down to the bank and say I got a business plan, a proposal, I'm not going to get that same kind of thought or consideration just because of the color of my skin. If Susie Wong next door, whether she's Asian, period. Whether she's Chinese, Korean, or Japanese, if she go down there with my same plan, they would give her more thought and consideration, because quote unquote they're known to be a more savvy business person, and know how to run and do business, where they look at black people as that we're not cool, that we're foreclosing, we're going out of business, that we're not good with money. So that's the bottom line. It's all about the money in this country, and that's my opinion. So I don't blame the shops that open up opportunity. My son posted something yesterday. He said being a pessimistic and being an optimist and even being a realist. He said why they arguing over if the glass half empty or the glass is half full. He said he gonna drink the water and he gonna become an opportunist. See, that's what we need. We just need a chance. I'm hungry. Give me the opportunity so I can take it and soar. But the opportunities that we get are far and few in between, versus somebody of another a set, or coming from another background.
Well,
We
I
need,
will say this, but it's not applicable to everybody because you can't apply stuff. But one of the things that made the Chinese so successful is trust and believe. These guys was not opening up loans for these people, and you have to remember that this is a long time ago. You have to build things, and it takes time. So when you look at things outside of their historical context, it gets confusing. But
Mhm.
Chinese people created their own banks inside this country. Chinese people, was getting loans from China and China Bank. So they had that type of cooperation as an entire group, and that is how pretty much they got a head start. And according to the statistics today, China for the last decade or two, Chinese people have been the had highest earners in the country because they, you know, go to school and get the type of education that will actually provide you with the highest level of education so they can make the highest amount of money that they literally appear to keep in their own communities. So it's about self-preservation, and once black people start to focus on self-preservation and start to come up with plans, because everybody have these thoughts, these beliefs, these notions that are partially informed in my opinion, um and we just keep yelling them out and yelling them out, but nobody actually do stuff, not in any concerted way so that it'll be effective. If we all want to go out and do what we do to get what we need as an individual, hey, as individuals, we'll be able to make it. However, if you want to do something serious that's going to be, a power move, you have to, coordinate these things and be very serious and intentional about it. And the last thing I like to say is that when you think about learning to read during the times of enslavement in this country, Black people weren't caring about education per se or caring about being able to speak these people language per se. But had Black people not learned how to read, they wouldn't have been able to do the different things that they did to make life bearable for them. They wouldn't have been able to come up with plans and strategies for how to escape because they couldn't read the newspapers. They couldn't read whatever needed to be read to understand what these white people are doing and what these white people are about. So they took that knowledge of learning this information, this English language, and they was able to use that language to, like you say, communicate more effectively, but also be able to, know where you're going. How you gonna run away and you can't read the signs and all of these different things and stuff. So you had to become acclimated with your environment before you can make the type of moves that we made to many of us escaped and things like that. And was
Right.
able to, go out here and, get on the right train to or the right go into the right businesses and interact amongst the right people so that you wouldn't be recaptured. You wouldn't even know they looking for you if you can't read the signs and stuff like this and everything. So it
See,
was a necessity.
see, Molly is not saying that. Molly is saying that they looked at us as being ignorant. Black people, we were not ignorant. Just because I don't know your language does not make me ignorant. I have to get acclimated in your
That's
system and your
it's
custom.
almost like a myth to a degree, right? Because they knew that these people wasn't ignorant because they actually, some people, they actually witnessed them in their own environment, you know what I'm saying? And saw that how these people had organized societies with
That's right.
governments and they had
That's
language
right.
that they spoke. Many of those languages back in those times when we were kidnapped from Africa, those weren't written languages, they were spoken languages. These things that we really would be interested to know, I would think, for many people. But so those was mostly spoken languages and stuff. And so
But
when
you
they
was
came,
whipped when we were enslaved and brought here. We was whipped. Our language was actually whipped out of us.
Yes, that
Our
is
tongue
true. So
was whipped
that's
out of us.
that's
They whipped us into being
to
imbeciles and
look, to
making
some
us
extent,
forget
because some people held
everything.
on to it. You know what I'm saying? Some people held on to it in secret.
And
You
some
know,
people
you should go to
stubborn,
the
and
Gullah
that's
Geechee in
good.
South Carolina and see how those people have preserved their African ancestry there. And it's like so many African groups in my city. I know we had like 3 African centered schools in this city. Only one still remained because black people didn't take their children to those schools. You know what I'm saying? We don't support each other's endeavors enough, and I think that should be something that black people should really try to concentrate on instead of, I mean, the white man gonna do what the white man do. And they
Right.
not gonna stop. But if you don't start doing something different, we gonna keep on being in the same place we're in, having the same conversations over and over and over again, which is counterproductive.
Well, that's why I'm trying to do something different. I'm trying to get our voices heard, the platform. It's like there's not enough. Okay, I'll explain it like this. If I'm a string, a lonely string out there, I can't do much or can't gather up much with so much with this one string. But if I get a whole bunch of strings like me, I can build a strong networking. I can be strong and be able to really catch something or really grab something in our net. If we keep working on individual basis, it takes a community, it takes a village for us to thrive. Just like you said, the Koreans, they get together and they do their thing. Even the Hispanics, they get together and they do their thing, and their culture supports them. Why is it that when black people try to get together and do our thing, we don't support each other like that? That's because of PTSD, past slavery trauma syndrome, because they tore us down. They tore us down. The fiber of us, they tore it down. And that's why we can never get together and do something right. And then we're always pushing and pulling against each other when we should be working together to help each other up. Everybody want to be climbing over each other, trying to be the top at the mountain. But if we could formulate ourselves and get it together, we can build steps where each one of us can get a chance to walk up and be on top. But it's
Yeah.
everybody's pulling everybody down. We can't do that. We have to change our stinking thinking. That's where the sickness is. It's in the thinking. It's in the thought process. It's how we critical thinking. We got to change our stinking thinking, and we
Yeah.
got to learn to support and love on each other instead of seeing each other as, oh, I hate her, I don't like him, I don't. These are your brothers and sisters, and you don't even know why you don't like that person. You just don't, and that's because of the systemic racism. I don't care what nobody say. It's here. It was bred in us, and it's going to take us uh, years, hundreds of years, maybe, to get out of that place and get over it. That's the new generation, and that's where they're coming in. Like Molly said, we even have new generation of white people that thinks differently. That say, "Hey, wait a minute, that was wrong, Pop. That wasn't right." Instead of the ones that just go along because your daddy said it, not to have an opinion for yourself, but you go along with whatever is being said and being taught. You
Yes,
know,
I
and
agree. And I feel like if we just get tunnel vision and don't care what any white people think, say, or do, and just concentrate on what black people need for healing and what black people need for stabilization, and think about how do we get from here where we are today to that place where we want to be and get tunnel vision, then we will actually be able to start to turn the tide of change so that hopefully when your children have children, we'll be on a whole different trajectory.
yes, yes. Maul,
I think this was a great show. I think it was definitely informational for a lot of people. It's a lot of things that I ain't hear, from other people' point of views, and it makes sense. Like if you want to live in this society in America that don't care for black people as much, you see how they treat us. Then yeah, you got to go to school. You got to do what the crackers say. You got to know how to read, write, talk proper English, dress well, and all that to be successful here, or you got to be ignorant. So I just think like we got too many people that's really uneducated. Then we got too many people that's overeducated, meaning that they done learned too much. That mean they super programmed. They not gonna really understand or see the things that we see. They always gonna find something or something to say that take up for what the white people, Chinese people, all these people doing to us. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna have to learn more than one language after 10, 20 years from now. It ain't gonna just if you know English, you're gonna have to know how to speak Chinese or any other language, because they taking over and we just sitting here not really paying attention because we so caught up wanting to be workers. It's cool if your kid go to school and they graduate and they work for these big corporates, but who own these corporates? Like who own these big industries that we keep working for? And that's okay to having a good job, but the next generation or the next generation, somebody eventually got to have that generational wealth. Cause that's all it is. They all got generational wealth. I ain't no racist guy. I think the world should be for everybody. But wherever we place that, for some reason, everybody getting rich off us when we should be getting rich off us. We spend the most money. So at the end of the day, a lot of people like, what you doing out here? I don't eat meat. I'm against meat. I talk about it. I talk about how we should treat the animals the way. So I don't do nothing against it. I do my best to go against it. So when people, I talk against the school system at the end of the day. That's just the things that I do. But I do practice what I preach. I only spend black business. I go to Infuse almost every day because they black owned. I don't shop no white people, no Chinese people, no curry out, none of that. But when I was young and dumb, yeah, I was in there every day. I was in McDonald's every day. I ain't know no better. But now that I know better, I'm living different. And I feel a lot better. But it's a lot of kids who don't. And when I start to preach it to them, it's other people who come along and say, well, you did it. When you was, I ain't know no better. Well, such and such successful. LeBron eat McDonald's. Chad Johnson eat that. I don't care what they doing. They're not going to tell you not to because the white man already programmed them to do this every day. It's people out here that really not happy with their life if they ain't in a certain grade or something, or I stayed back. It's kids who killed themselves because they stayed back. It's kids who killed themselves because they got a C. Literally, oh, I ain't smart enough. Smart enough for who? This not our language. I can take any scholar right now, straight A from school, and throw them in a third world country that's speaking that language. They won't even know how to survive. So that's anybody. When I keep hearing like slaves was over here, we was trying to learn how to. And if we shouldn't have been slaves. That's what we got to wake up to. Forget if we knew how to write and we knew how to read. We didn't knew how to get around. And there's no, we shouldn't have been slaves in the first place. We knew how to communicate with each other. It's writings on them ancient walls. Just because they don't understand it, don't mean it ain't words. Them words. When Chinese people write, them same Chinese people we talking about, they draw. They don't write like we write. They draw just how they drew on them Egypt walls. We been had our own writing, our own language until we wake up and realize that they indoctrinated all this stuff onto us, that this not our language, this not nothing that we do. We don't dress like this. We not into none of this gay stuff they got us doing. None of these things. We got to get back to what we do, and I'm gonna keep preaching it. And I know some people gonna be against it, but I'm gonna still actually live what I'm speaking. I can't be out here still eating meat, telling people don't eat meat. I can't be out here, telling people don't order from the curry out and eat curry out if I'm still eating curry out. That's just something. But I'm definitely not out here just talking. I'm actually out here doing what I'm saying I'm doing. So that's it though, because we went 15 minutes over and Tom already here. But that's it for me today. Education get me like this all the time. I hate school.
You done made my cap fell off my head. My cap again. Like I said, this graduation day.
She trying to show the hair off, y'all.
All right. Well, I will talk to you all another time, and I
Thank you,
enjoyed the
Katina.
conversation. And
Enjoy the
Thank
always
you.
containing. And don't never take me
We won't
serious.
have
This
to
how
have.
I talk.
Y'all want
no, I
I
don't take
love
it
your
personal.
opinions.
I take you serious, but I don't take it personal. Like, oh,
Okay, cause
he's
I be having
mad
some
at
people
me.
hating me
No,
later.
no,
They be like,
no.
hate that Molly. I
You
can't.
are, let me tell you, everybody has the right to have their own opinion
Yeah, I'm
and
just
their
my
own
opinion.
stance on anything in this world. That's
Yeah,
what I believe.
don't
So
mean I'm right
I'll
at
never
all.
try to snatch your belief away. The one thing I will say to get rid of carryouts, if people don't shop at the carryouts, guess what? The carryout will have to go out of business. And
Yeah,
then guess what? The property value on that piece of business right there goes down. And as a community, you could buy that property at a cheaper rate. That's what I'm talking about. You got to plan, strategize, and implement. And we could change the whole dynamics of all of these things, but it just can't be one person, boycotting the chicken wing. Like I've
Yeah.
never had a chicken wing from a curry out. Never. So I ain't in my
Oh,
whole
man.
life I ain't never had a chicken wing from the curry out. Never.
Damn.
Never.
That's big. I can't
Never.
say that. I had that for about years straight. That was my go-to.
Yeah.
But it was there. It was cheap. You
It
get
was
two
right
dollars and
there.
50 cents. You get rice and 10 chicken wings. I
Yeah.
get it. They
Not
created
no
promo
more than
sauce. You throw that
$15.
on there.
Oh,
Five
yeah.
wings used to be
Yeah.
$5. Now five wings $15. It's $3 a wing. You can go to Keith and Sons. It's three. I eat chicken. It's $3 a
Oh,
wing, and
I
I'm
eat
about to
chicken too,
turn
but I
vegan
don't eat
because
no
I
chicken
can't
wing from
afford
no
it.
Chinese people at the carry out.
Yeah, that curry
My
out.
mother cooked some good chicken wings, boy. Those are the
Yeah.
best chicken wings I ever had in my life. So
Homemade.
yes.
Yeah.
But y'all have a great show, and I'm gonna probably listen back in at 1 o'clock. So I gotta
The
make my
Paul
pizza dough,
Mo
y'all.
Show. Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah,
right.
I
I'm
got
gonna
to
be
go.
ready. I don't know what we're
At
gonna
one
talk
o'clock.
about today, but yeah, thanks for having me on today again, Reese.
Okay,
No,
see
thank
Thanks
y'all
you,
again,
later.
Katina.
I'll
Katina.
be seeing y'all at 1 o'clock.
I
Uh,
love y'all. We got
Love
to
you
get ready for
too,
the
both of
Tom Mo
y'all.
Show.
Absolutely.
Molly, you want to say goodbye to our viewers and listeners? I
yeah,
can't even
catch
see.
y'all at one. Catch y'all at one. Love y'all. Love you, Reese. Reese.
Love you. Mwah. See y'all Monday. Peace. We out.